Whew. There we go. Hopefully you can now hear me. I've been talking away to myself, but hopefully now you can hear me. Fingers crossed you can see me. If anyone can, drop it in the chat and just let me know. But welcome to Minis-N-Muscles. It's great to have you all here. Really, really good. Whether you're watching this live or whether you're watching this post-recorded, perhaps. My backdrop doesn't look as good as what I imagined it previously, but nevertheless, we shall proceed. So, me, who am I? What am I doing here? Well, my name is Steve. I am an absolute geek at heart. Despite loving fitness and everything to do with fitness, actually I love miniatures. I've been, well, doing miniature painting now for, well, since COVID really. I got into it, well, actually that's a bit of a lie. Perhaps actually the truth is I started when I was about 12 years of age. I played Mordheim and Blood Bowl, so 2 Games Workshop games, many moons ago, with some friends of mine at school. So I played for about 2 years, stuck a few models together, slapped a bit of paint on them, but then forgot all about the hobby. It became very uncool, and then throughout my life I then re-explored it during COVID. There was a couple of models that were left at my house and I thought, oh okay, maybe I'll paint these and see what they look like, and I actually got really into it. It was a little bit of escapism for me, especially when COVID was a bit of a rubbish time for people and it wasn't particularly great. So I used that, jumped into the models, got well into it, absolutely sucked in actually, and just continued to paint models. As lockdown then subsided and things got a little bit easier, I then made it out the other side and started to look at painting models and other games. And I found myself in the world of Dungeons and Dragons. So there was a comic shop that was near to me that I used to travel to. And this must have been 2023, was it? Maybe beginning of 2023. So jumped on in 2023. That was really nice to start playing D&D, and I found a massive passion and became a complete and utter geek and nerd. So prior to that though, and falling in love with the geek world, spent many years doing lots of fitness of all shapes and sizes, and that is why now we're at the point where I thought, oh sod this, the brawn needs to meet the brush. So I thought about setting up a channel to sort of break down a few barriers of why, the perception of geeks actually, and that anyone can be a geek no matter what you look like, on the inside or the outside. This is a hobby that's really good for everybody, and in multiple ways actually, in terms of that sort of mental health and escapism kind of side that I touched on earlier. So it's really good. So let's see, after my quick intro there, if we've got anyone online at all. Let's just ask the chat if they can hear me. Let's just see if anyone's there. So it does say we've got people online, but I'm not sure whether they can hear me. I could be doing this completely wrong because I have no clue in what I'm doing whatsoever. So I'm completely winging this evening. I literally set up the channel of Minis-N-Muscles, what, on Sunday was it, I think? Only a couple of days ago. Anyway, offer women a prayer, and oh, hang about, have we got anyone in the chat there? No, not yet. But yeah, I set the channel up on a wing and a prayer, hoping that there might be some people out there that would enjoy talking about everything geek. So from retro gaming to D&D to Warhammer, and it could be anything all the way through the geek culture really. And then adding in a little bit of spice from fitness, because that's another passion of mine, and being able to do that with you all as well. So we'll cover that, and also a little bit of painting at the same time. So what I'm going to probably do this evening is I've got this little fella here that I've started painting, but I haven't finished him yet. He's called Thal the Defiler. I'm going to be finishing him this evening and doing a little bit of painting with him. I will have to put my glasses on. Being 40 years of age doesn't help my eyesight whatsoever. Oh, great. People can hear me. Fantastic. So yes, I'm going to do a little bit of painting in a shortly, and we'll just have a bit of a chat, see what's going on, see what people say, what people see what they're up to, and see if actually people want to listen to my mindless drivel. So yeah, so how the channel is going to work, because it is a new channel, I think it's important that we cover that. To begin with, I'm going to sort of do lots of shorts throughout the week. But I will also be looking at doing a live every Friday at 7 p.m. BST, and then possibly, dependent on how things go, there might be extra videos that run as well. Yeah, so that's how that will work. So perhaps I might actually don the goggles and look at doing some painting. So if I stick these on, I might be able to see a little bit better. You might get a reflection from the ring light there, so apologies. But yeah, so a bit of background about painting as well for me. Let's just lower these a little bit. So another reason why I wanted to start this channel was when I look at YouTube, and it could be YouTube, or it could be the Warhammer channel specifically, or things like that. Actually, I noticed that the painting standards are really, really high. Like, absolutely pro painters. And these are pro painters that are trying to teach new people. And that does work. But when I started myself doing some of these paintings and, you know, doing bits and bobs here and there, it got a little bit disheartening when I couldn't replicate what these people were trying to do or trying to show me. So actually what I wanted to do was then change and be able to provide people some painting tips and tricks from someone that isn't a pro, that doesn't have all this fancy equipment or anything like that, just as basic stuff that you can shop buy or Amazon buy, but that can actually achieve really decent results. So I thought I'd run through a little bit of some examples of models that I've done previously. So let's see if this camera switch works. Right, so you can now see my hands, and you can, oh god, you can now see stuff that's behind me, but you can now see my hands, and you can see me in the small screen. So we're talking about Warhammer. So let's bring this first piece in here. So this first piece is oh, there we go. Camera's automatically moving, which is not so great. But it's a Space Marine. Is it a land speeder or something like that? Please forgive me if I get it wrong, guys. I've never played Warhammer in my life. Can you believe it? I've read some books. I paint some miniatures, but I've never played. So if we bring this guy in a little bit closer, you should be able to see some of the details that's on here. One of the things I quite liked was, I don't have quite the right lighting, but the digital dash in the spaceship I actually painted, and you can see that. That's pretty cool. And there's nice little details on the seats and things like that. I really need a top-down camera, I think. But that was one miniature that I really liked. Let's have a couple of others. Let's bring these up as well. So we've also got these miniatures. Actually, I might be able to just drag this and bring it across. There we go. So who have we got here? We've got a couple of extra miniatures here. Let's bring these in. Let's bring a little bit of light in. There we go. There we go. That's better, right? We can actually see something. Okay, so what I quite liked about this guy was the little shading on the alien head there. I thought that was proper cool. And these were stuff that I'd done, like, this was a lockdown piece, I think. This guy in the middle was not a lockdown piece, but it wasn't long after. But this is the kind of effect I've got. And this one was, again, after the guy in the middle. So you can see a bit of progression. You can see some edging and highlighting on the things like the rocks and stuff. So I thought they were pretty cool. I really enjoyed those. I quite like the Space Marine, the Games Workshop minis, purely because the sculpting is really, really good on them. And to get a nice finish, it's all about sculpting. You can buy really cheap minis from, for example, from Etsy, like 3D printed stuff. But when the print quality isn't that great, it makes your painting look even worse. So there's the first tip of the evening. Find a good print of a mini, whether it's shop bought or not, and use those. All right, let's move these out of the way and just place the camera down a second. I don't know why the camera zooms in and out all the time. It's rather frustrating, but let's move these. I've got a couple of others here, actually. These are quite cool. These are quite nice miniatures. These are, again, from the Warhammer world that I've sort of got over time. And we can see here, again, it's not really technical painting that I've done. Everything is pretty simplistic. It's not super difficult. And when we go through the actual painting and we start doing it live, you know, I can go through this with you and tell you. And I've picked up tips and tricks from different people, like my friend Pete. He does a lot of painting. He recently introduced me to sponges. Oh my god, sponges are so freaking cool. Absolutely loved sponges for doing large scenery pieces. So large scenery pieces take a long time if you've got brushes and, you know, that which are quite fine tipped. But actually with a sponge you get a far better effect rather than this sort of brush stroke look. But it also takes no time at all. I painted a whole village of scenery in literally one night, and I texted him afterwards and said, "Oh Pete, this is magical that you've sort of shown me this. Thank you so much." So if Pete, if you are out there listening, thank you very much, mate. So we've got the Warhammer stuff. I also love D&D, as I said. So I've got a couple of D&D minis here to show. So let's have a look at these. So these are two wizards. These are pretty cool guys, these ones. I'm pretty proud of these. See, they look really smart. And again, they're not anything that nobody that's watching this channel couldn't do pretty easy. This guy here is or he was an ogre. Oh god, this bloody moving camera. But he was an ogre. But I crafted a beard on to make a furbolg. So a furbolg bard, just so I could get a bit of a different vibe for playing at the table. So I just used some sculpting green putty to do that. And then there's this little guy down in the end. He's the Gnome Ranger. So him and his wolf, he's got a pet wolf there. But that's the kind of standard for those that I'm at, which is not bad. Again, it's not pro, but it looks pretty decent when you put it on a table. And that's the idea, really. Certainly the idea behind the channel, aside the muscles and the fitness part, is actually just to show you guys that anyone can paint at this kind of level. And this is really just to show you what you can achieve. And it's pretty simple. It's not as difficult as you may think. So let's have a look at these guys. These are more... Oh, there's one Warhammer here, but there's mostly D&D. So this guy, I got this guy from Dragon Meets. So there's a big expo that happens every year called Dragon Meet. I went there, and there was a stand selling a load of minis, and this guy just looked cool. And I rush painted this guy in one evening just to get him out on the table so I could use him. But the effect here is just simply a wash in the cracks, which is really... Oh, there you go, bit of a pun for you, but a wash in the cracks. But yeah, he's pretty cool. He looks pretty smart. But that was just a rush job for one evening. You've got this little guy here. He's quite smart. Let's see if we can pick out some detail with the camera. Again, apologies, the camera's not the best of quality. But that's the kind of standard you're going to get if you listen and take my advice. Hopefully it's good advice, that is. But yeah, that's the kind of thing you're going to see on those. Then you've got bigger stuff as well. I love this guy. This is a demonic tree. So if you're into miniatures, go to Dungeons and Lasers. Dungeons and Lasers do some great minis. So I bought this guy, the dragon that I'll be painting later today, and another dragon from... Oh, crikey, what expo was it? I can't remember the name of the expo, but I got it from there earlier this year. And they're pretty cheap, easy to put together, fairly easy. And the sculpting is really, really good. So you can get a real cool quality on there. And I love this water effect and how that came out. It looks really smart. Like, at any angle, it looks really cool. Then you've got like a little sort of love heart carved in on his arm. You do have some sort of grim hanging bodies at the back there as well, but which you don't have to put too much detail into, really. They kind of come to life with a little bit of shading. And then lastly, this guy here, he's actually not finished, and you'll see from some of these spikes on here that have got red on. I haven't gone through and finished him. But the base I had to sculpt, so this was sculpting it again out of green putty and using some sort of green putty to build up that wave effect. So if we just tip him there, you'll actually see that he's surfing through the waves themselves, and you can see how that they're sort of 3D themselves, which is quite cool. But the model is awesome. This guy got a dragon meat. He's really cool. And apologies if the manufacturer ever sees this video. And I can't remember the name of them, but they're so cool. This guy's really, really smart. I think the sculpting is beautiful. So easy to paint, easy to put together, apart from the legs on this guy. So his sort of tentacles, I had to green putty them in, which is not so much of a tidy job, but it suffices, and it looks really cool. And what a miniature to bring out on your table in the middle of a game. That's really smart. So I'm just going to put those across to the side there. Move the camera back so you should just see my face. So those are a couple of miniatures that I've painted either recently or over the past sort of couple of years. But again, it's only been since I started painting back again in COVID time. So, you know, it's not that long. And that's the kind of standard you can get to fairly easy with a little bit of practice and a little bit of sort of effort putting into the hobby itself. So I'm just going to move this across a little bit so I can see what I'm talking about. Yeah, so the tips and tricks side, we'll cover that shortly when I get into painting Thrall the Defiler. So we'll bring him back over here because we'll need him shortly. So this dragon, if you missed it earlier, that's Thrall the Defiler. I'll show you the boxwork actually for him, so you can see what boxwork he comes in. So it's pretty much replicated in terms of how he looks, but I really do like him. In fact, let's get the camera onto this guy so I can show you some details. Let's go to side view only. So here he is. This is Thrall the Defiler. He's not finished yet, as you can see from the base. The only issue I had with this mini, because he's quite large, I actually had to use some 2Ps and 1Ps. Sorry, Queenie, but I had to use some 2Ps and 1Ps to weight the base so he actually stands up. But the techniques you use to get this kind of skull effect are actually really simple. So, talking of paints and things like that, what paints do I use to paint this guy? Well, actually I use Citadel paints. So just the standard paints that you get out of Games Workshop that's all across the country. This guy I used Ushabti bone. So this one here, Ushabti, however you pronounce that, bone. I used that to then put a really light dusting across, almost like a dry brush effect across the skull. And some of the bones actually, and then used this wash. So where is it? It's not that one, it is this one here. So a contrast snakebite leather, which comes out like a sort of real inky kind of vibe, but it dries quite well, and it just stains the white or that bone colour effect just to give you that darkened sort of look, and it looks really smart. The other part I like on this guy, if we can get in here, is the shade and the tones across the muscles. So this is just two colours really, it's really simple. Again, do a base colour of one purple and then get a different shade of sort of purpley red to just highlight some of the areas and just go round across bits that protrude and stick out. But it's quite a cool model, and the same with the green. So you just literally use little tiny parts of a lighter colour just to bring out the dark. But he's not finished yet anyway. That's what he looks like. He is a pretty cool mini, and if you sort of stand, you know, your average D&D mini next to him, let's see, he is a fair old size. So yeah, that's what he looks like, and we'll carry on painting him tonight. So what we're talking about when we talk about painting, what do I use? Let's change camera back. So when I'm painting, I don't use anything expensive. As I showed you there, I use Citadel paints, so you know, all of these sort of things. I just have a basic rack that I bought off of Amazon. It's just cost me, I think, about 15 quid for a rack that holds a load of paints. You have to glue it together, that's why it's so cheap, but you know, it works really effectively. In fact, I should probably show you. So let's just show you this rack here, so that's what it looks like. That's what they all sit in. It's got a couple of little drawers, but that's real nice. I enjoy using that, and it's nice and cheap, so that's good. Yeah, so fill it with paints. That does take a bit of time, but you don't have to go and buy, 50 million paints. I think the starter set's probably around £20, and you get a brush with that. And talking of brushes, what brushes do I use? Well, that varies wherever I can get a brush, really. So I have quite a few different varieties. I'll show you a couple of different ones. And again, it's not expensive, and that's what I think a bit of a misconception is, that you have to spend loads of money to get these really good effects. You don't. A brush that I've been using a lot recently is this one here. I don't know if you can see, if I bring it close enough to the camera. Nick Pro. This was a Christmas gift that I got, and I think it's from Amazon, so they're not massively expensive, and it just comes in a pot with about 10 or so, 15 so other brushes, but that's really good. They work well. You have got, obviously, should turn it that way, the Citadel brushes. So the Citadel brushes are pretty nice. They do work well, but they are a little bit pricey, especially if you go for some of the smaller brushes. They start at around, I want to say about £8 or something like that, and they go up to about 15 quid for a brush. Quite expensive. This one, I'll read it out. It's called Royal and Langsnucker or something like that. This was just a really cheap brush, like super cheap. I picked this up at a hobby store, just a generic hobby store, and actually it's that cheap. Some of the ends have actually come out, the bristles have come out, and it's really, really fine. So I keep this as a sort of fine point. But that's a nice little brush. Again, don't spend a load of money. Water pot, if you need a water pot, because everyone does, because you must rinse your brushes off. I just use, the goo puddings that you buy. A goo pudding with a Pringles tub for a lid to pop that over the top. That's good enough for my water. For putting the models together, I use either Citadel plastic glue, just because that's really the only brand I know of and have explored. And then for models that are lead or sometimes a little bit more trickier to stick, and you need it to stick a bit quicker, I just use the super glues that you can buy from like the pound shop. So nothing expensive. The only other thing, and I've recently started to use this, is this. This is an Army Painter's wet palette. I used to use the old sort of paper palettes, but this one, it's got a little tray there for your paints, for your brushes. But what you can do is it's got a foam pad in the bottom, and then you just put your paints on top. You put the water on your foam. You then cover the foam with a plastic or a paper sheet, and then you can put your paints over the top, and it just ensures that they spread really smoothly. The reason I'd recommend this is purely because you can then just get a finer layer of paint. It just makes it a lot easier to spread the paint over the models, which is nice. So that's kind of my setup. It's not massive, it's not expensive. Oh, the only other thing I've got is this little, it's like a ring light with a magnifying glass. I never used a magnifying glass, but it's good to shine the light down onto the minis, so that then you can get a good view of what you're painting. Like I said, I'm 40, my eyesight's not that great, so hence why I wear the glasses, but it also allows me to look in closer. So that is my setup. Anyone got any questions? What's the chat doing? It says we've got a few viewers online at the moment, so I wonder if anyone's brave enough to say anything. Possibly not, but we'll see. But in the meantime, I suppose I should probably get Thrall the Defiler out and start to paint him. Well, he's already out, but we'll get him into place and get him ready. Hopefully everyone's having a good Friday so far. It's the end of the week, thank the Lord. So we're finishing up and we can enjoy our weekend and a bit of rest. So on this model, I've got a little bit of highlighting to do on some of the areas. So I just want to... Oh, in fact, no, I've got some rocks to do at the bottom. So I've got some base colours to do. So nothing too crazy. There's going to be a couple of greys that I'll pull out. And we'll use those. Nothing too mad. So let me find my paints as I go through all the different drawers on my paint trays. So what else is everyone up to? Anyone else out there? Anyone listening? As I pick out my paints. When you're doing things like rocks, I always like to try and use multiple colours of greys. You know, it's okay to use one colour if that's all you can get hold of or afford or whatever, and then use some shading across the top. But if you start off with just some really slightly different greys, you can just achieve a nice look, and it just looks a little bit more realistic. But you don't have to do that. I've only just started doing that because my paint collection's got slightly larger. But prior to that, I was just painting one and then using shading here and there, so it doesn't really matter too much. So what else have we got on the bottom of this mini? So let's go on to here. Let's take a look at Thrall's base. And on there we seem to have looks like some skulls or some teeth, some rocks, and then around this side it looks like a bit of a tail or something like that, but more skeleton basically to add. So that's absolutely fine. We can do that. We can place the camera on the side there. There we go, as it automatically shifts and moves. That really does freak me out. I'm just watching it myself. That's so strange. Move those out the way. I'm just going to move my light in a little bit closer, so it might affect you looking at my face, or hopefully my face not putting you off too much. But yeah, so let's have a little bit of a live demo on the painting. So first thing I'm going to do is just get a little bit of water onto the brush, just dry that off. So I don't use any, again, nothing fancy. This is just kitchen roll. So I don't want my paintbrush to be completely maxed out with water, so I just use a bit of kitchen roll to dry it off. I will use a little cheat machine to mix my paints. Again, I learnt this from my friend Pete. I don't know if this will come onto screen here, but it's this little thing here. It looks rather odd, but it's a paint mixer. You put your paints on top, it makes this sort of hideous vibration noise. And then it sort of shakes your paints up for you rather than you sitting there going like this. You know, I've done this all my life, you know, and you put paint agitators in there, sort of metal balls, just to try and mix the paints themselves. But this little paint shaker, I don't know if you can hear it going in the background, is really, really helpful. It just stops you shaking your paints up. It's quite nice. But I still put paint agitators in. And by agitators, I shall show you what I mean. So let me find these. So paint agitators are just these little metal balls. So little metal balls that you chuck in. And they go into any old paint tin or a pot. And you just throw those in and it just helps circulate the paint. Again, you don't have to if you don't want to. But I just find it does help when it comes to, you know, applying a nice mixed coat. Otherwise sometimes they do get a little bit gloopy, especially in hot weather. Adrian, you're in the chat. Dragons, yes. So this is Thrall, Adrian. If maybe one day in our games. So I know Adrian well from a charity I volunteer and work for. So it's a military veterans charity. We play Dungeons and Dragons, and I DM for Adrian. So perhaps, Adrian, we can bring this dragon in to meet your character at some point. I don't know whether your character would enjoy that, though, right? So let's just open this up. So all we need to do is open the first paint and just take a little bit out of the lid. So not much. There you go. You can see it just about above Thrall's head. And you put it into your paint tray. So put a little bit into your paint tray just so you've got enough there. Just wash out the brush. Oh, this auto zoom camera, I really don't like that. That's very strange. See all my personal hobby collection behind me, and a flag as well. I'm going to put some paint into that wet tray. Do another rinse off before I mix all my paints up. So I've now got 3 greys into my wet palette. So 3 greys, that should be more than enough. Just rinse off the brush. Remember, when you are rinsing off your brushes, bring this into view. Here we go. Try not to take the water above this little metal line because it can rot your brushes out and the bristles all fall out and all the rest of it. Sometimes I get carried away and I forget. And I also do this. I put them in my mouth to then straighten the brushes, the bristles, sorry. Gross habit, I know, but it does work, and it just to get that fine point before you apply the paint, a little bit of saliva magic just to get on the end of the paintbrush. Right, so let's get cracking with Thrall. So let's start with some darker greys to begin with. I don't know if you can hear my music I've got on in the background, but it's very nice. If you guys ever get the chance to listen to Pocket Bard. Pocket Bard are sort of a dynamic music theme provider for Dungeons and Dragons and TTRPGs. So they just have an application that you can download for free, actually. So it's really, really good. And it has music on there pre-built for your scenes, like it might have a dungeon scene. Oh God, might have a dungeon scene or something like that. This one is mountains. And it just plays continuous variants of different music. It's wonderful. It really is good. And if you're playing in-person D&D especially, it really sets the scene. It makes it so cool. So I do like this app. It's very, very smart. And it has lots of little sound effects, like if you want a bird to squawk or if you want an explosion. And as you go into battle, you can change the music to make sure that you've got battle scene or combative sort of music playing. Right, so what I've done here is, let's just turn this round. Oh, I don't know if you can see. So I've just painted the first rock. No, don't go up, camera. Stay where you are. So I've just painted the first rock here in a sort of darker grey. It's actually in line with the current rocks above, so I'm going to change my grey. I didn't realise. Sometimes you forget what greys or colours you paint in, which can make it a little bit difficult for remembering what you're doing and where you're going. But that's completely fine. So get the next grey. We're just going to apply a light coat. Depending on how much you mix your colours in your wet palette will depend on how many coats you'll need as well. So you might need more than one. Some of the sort of painting things that we'll go through, actually, we'll start a model in earnest, not in this session, because actually it took a lot to speak through some of the welcoming parts, I guess, of bringing you guys to this YouTube channel. So we'll actually cover a little bit more at a later date on how to start a model, how to base coat it, all the things that I do to get them to, you know, tabletop kind of standard. So here we go. Just painting a little bit on. It's a little bit too thick actually, so it's not looking that great, but we might be able to cover that up. Another thing I've noticed with painting models is never panic, because there's always a little cheat that you can do just to cover something up and make it look acceptable on the tabletop. So although there's loads of different rocks based around the bottom of this model, I'll just paint them in sort of random successive order so that they don't have to be right next to each other. I'm just going to spread the different greys all around just so you get a nice mix. So who else we've got in the chat? We've got Aimzo, we've got Adrian, we've got 19 apparently. Or is that 19 views in total? Concurrent viewers, I don't really know what it all means, but hopefully there's a few people there. So another part of doing this live stream is, well, obviously the hint is in the name of the group itself, is muscles and minis. Now, I'm not going to sit here and lecture people all day long about doing fitness and why you should do fitness, but if you're interested, you know, we'll certainly include some parts of fitness just for a bit of difference, and I call that my muscle moment, and we'll do muscle moments every session just so that, you know, we can mix it up a little bit and do something different, and we'll talk about various different things. I've been lifting weights now for 8 years, yeah, roughly. Prior to that, I did triathlons. So triathlons and cycling. So loads and loads of that, including things like Ironman. Lots and lots of running, including cross country. I don't know if anyone picked up on it, but I said it earlier about the military veterans charity that I support. So that's Tactical Advance to Game. Well, actually, it's a subsidiary of a charity. So the charity is actually called Game Therapy UK, which is an absolutely awesome charity that does therapeutic gaming for people in various different states of life. So it could be, for example, the military veterans group. So that's serving soldiers and veterans, actually. But they do have a schools, libraries and clubs section. They do have a homelessness part, and they do therapeutic gaming for them, all for free. So I volunteer for those, and I work in the veterans side. So I do the tabletop gaming for those guys. You might see me at some of the expos throughout the UK. So I normally attend those with Game Therapy UK and talk about the military veterans side, which is really nice. It's actually a lovely group with, you know, like-minded individuals that can reconnect, especially after leaving the military. It can be quite a odd time leaving the military. Because it's a big change. I don't think people always realise how much of a big change it is. But trust me, from someone that, you know, didn't do 22 years, but I did 14 years regular and then just under 3 years reserve service. It's a massive change. You know, going from waking up every day, knowing exactly what you're doing every day, being told what to do. You know, they have a thing called Part 1 orders. So, and you literally wake up in the morning. Well, actually, you read it before you go to bed. And you can know and see what you're doing the next day. It tells you, you know, oh, be in this dress and, you know, do this, turn up here. Absolutely fine whilst you're in. When you get out, it's a little bit different because, well, civvy life doesn't really work like that. But nonetheless, still very good charity, Game Therapy UK, and the tag element as well is awesome. That's really good. I met some wonderful people through through Game Therapy and through tag as well. Sometimes you might have to do these really weird painting positions where you have to put the brush like halfway through the model just to get to a little bit, but you can get there, you can reach it, you can do it. And sometimes you might even, like I just did, scrub the model where you don't want to paint, and you end up with paint in a position that's just not favourable at all. The beauty with this paint, that I've just put on my laptop ironically, is that it's all water based. So if you do get a little bit on, you know, your laptop, oops, or on the model where you don't want it to be, you can just literally wipe it off. So a little bit of water, and obviously I'm not recommending that you pour water over your laptop, that would be absolutely ludicrous, but what you can do is you can just wipe it off your model. It's not a problem. Just wipe that off my mouse pad. Hopefully I've still got you guys there and I can still see you all. Yeah, it looks like we're still there. Okay. So we'll just pause a moment whilst we're just doing that. We talked earlier about doing a moment for muscles, so a muscle moment. So, thinking of the brawn meets the brush, and my lovely catchphrase, I was rather impressed with that when I made that up. Hopefully you all are too. But when I was thinking of the stream, I thought, well, I had a long time in the military teaching people from a physical training instructor's point of view. I then, you know, left and then spent the last 8 years doing weights and watching a lot of people in the gyms and what they do, and there's some crazy people out there, and by the way, I'm no perfectionist or superstar, but I've learnt a little bit as we go around the block. So for those that are thinking about getting into fitness, I would say to you, it's about consistency is key. It doesn't really, to begin with, doesn't really matter about the routine that you're doing in the gym. It's actually about getting yourself to the gym in the first place. That's normally the hardest part, especially if you've had some time off and you're trying to get back into it or something like that. So for me, it's consistency is key. Make sure you turn up, even if it's for just half an hour. Finish that session. After you've done that consistently for 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, then go for 45 minutes. Then go for an hour, and then build it up slowly. But we can always talk about fitness. Is anyone doing any fitness challenges at the moment? Stick it in the chat if you are. I'd love to hear what you guys are doing and what everyone is up to. See if anyone... got 21 views so far, but again, I don't know if that's live views or what. It just says 21 views. Any YouTubers out there that know more than me, tell me what that means. Does that mean that's people that are watching? I'm running this through OBS, by the way. And hopefully you can see all my cool little effects. I took ages in building this border thing with my name and the logo and things like that, and having the ability to shift between different they're called scenes with different camera views. It takes a bit of time. So yeah, I'd love to hear what fitness challenges you're doing. Over the past few years, I've done a couple of really cool challenges actually. One that I look back at most fondly was a cycle ride from the D-Day landings in France all the way through France, across the Pyrenees and into Spain. So it was about 1,400-mile bike ride. And that was absolutely epic, just cycling every day with a group of friends, good people. I'm doing bar at the moment mostly. Want to get back into weights. Oh, okay, cool. So if you want to get back into weights, absolutely. I don't know what bar is, but I'm sure I should probably look at that. I think it's like a Pilates type thing. But if you want to get back into weights, yeah, just start slowly, build yourself up. Like I said, consistency is key. You're not there to compete against anyone. A lot of gyms are very weird places when you go into them, because there's a lot of people competing, or it feels like they're competing everything. It's a big show-off place and all the rest of it. But yeah, it's a weird one. But don't go in there battling against anyone else. Don't worry what someone else is lifting. So, for example, a friend of mine, I posted some shorts on the channel. So some YouTube shorts, not shorts that you wear. Some YouTube shorts, and I posted them on the channel earlier this week. And some of them have like fitness pictures in, and people have commented. And one comment was, "Oh well, that's more than I can do here." And I'm like, well, that doesn't matter, because you and I are different people, as are you to your best mate. Everyone is different. Everyone's makeup is different, and not just the makeup you put on your faces, but it's all personal. So don't go there to beat yourself and make yourself better than everyone else. Go there to enjoy it. That's the main thing. If you can enjoy the gym, you can then be consistent at the gym. Then the consistency that brings the gains. But that is the most important thing. I think, secondly, if you're, and I don't know what people's quests are and what they're trying to achieve, but actually looking at a gym cycle, as I said, consistency, but actually there's 3 other key things I would say to anybody, anywhere. Get your steps in, so 10,000 steps a day as a minimum. That can be steps in walking or running, up to you, or jogging. It would then be, look at your calories. So your calories are they're really, really important. If you're super into weights and doing, real big stuff and looking for competition, then I'd say split it into macros. But to begin with, because that's quite a lot to start to wrap your brain about, and the more you take on in the first place, it's harder to then replicate going forward. So just look at calories and just take a couple of hundred off your daily recommended allowance, maybe 200-300 off your daily recommended allowance. That would help you lose weight, for example. Or if you're just trying to sustain what you're at, stay at your daily recommended allowance. Use those free apps, those calorie counting apps that you just scan the barcodes. That's so easy. So easy. So you've got your steps, you've got your calories, and then you've got your fitness. 4 tough fitness sessions every week. Every week. Consistency. Get in there and work hard. There's no good working there and putting more sweat on or dusting off the machine with your nice fancy towel and sipping on your Stanley Cup, as some people talk about. Actually, it's working hard in the gym and making sure that you're applying yourself and pushing hard, because the only way you'll see change is going through very difficult motions and movements in the gym. You've got your steps, you've got your calories, and you've got your workouts. 3 things. Be consistent at that, and I'll 100% guarantee if you're doing that honestly and to the point, especially with your training and training hard, you will see results in whatever you're trying to achieve, whether that's losing weight, staying on track, or gaining muscle, for example. So how much cardio versus resistance do you suggest? Great question from the Cam 152. Again, depends on what you're trying to achieve, actually. So for me personally, I'm not really like, I keep on banging on, it's probably the 4th time I've said it now. I'm 40, right? So my body is not like it was. I used to run and cycle all the time. I used to be super cardio fit. When I was in the military, my best 1.5 mile time, that's a run of a 1.5 mile distance with an 800 meter warm up beforehand. So the 1.5 mile part, I used to run in 6 minutes 50, 6 minutes 45. That's pretty rapid. No way could I do that now. Every time I go for a run, I hurt myself. My legs give up. I tore both my hamstrings playing 5-a-side football a couple of years ago. Anyway, I digress. So it depends on what you're doing. However, cardio, those 10,000 steps, if you can get those in, whether it's a run or a walk, absolutely fine. That will keep you fit enough. And it's not like a plod of a walk. Put a bit of pace into it. Find a hill, walk up it fairly quick. That would be more than enough if you're looking just for muscular gain. So if you're looking to gain size or strength, more than enough. If your goal, the Cam 152, is to then break into something like, I don't know, let's use a triathlon as an example, you're going to have to incorporate cardio 100%. If you're doing that, your cardio is more like 60%, weights 40%. And then if you're into weights, it's more about 60% weights with 40% cardio, the cardio being your steps. But yeah, if you're doing triathlons and things like that, your cardio is not steps, it's runs, and it's, high intensity workouts. But it really does depend. But I'm happy to sort of, give advice on that kind of thing. So when we're in these muscle moments on the Minis-N-Muscles channel, we can have a chat about that. If you wanted to sling me a DM or whatever, feel free to. Happy to answer some questions or put them in the live chat. That's really good. But yeah, it depends on what you're trying to achieve. But hopefully my answer was, in a roundabout way, got your question answered for you. Fingers crossed anyway. So yeah, summary of our muscles moment. What do we want to achieve? Consistency. And that's consistency in your steps a day, 10,000 steps a day as a minimum. That's a jog, run or a walk. That's your calories. Either maintain your calories by tracking them through an app. If you're trying to lose weight, take 200 or 300 off. Don't go crazy. Don't be having half of your calories that you should be having on your recommended daily allowance. You won't sustain it. Take 200 or 300 off your recommended daily allowance. Okay, track it. You must track it. Okay, it's no good going, well, I've had 2 apples today and a chocolate bar. And then lastly, make sure you do your fitness workouts. Oh, we've got another question coming. What inspired you to start painting Dungeons and Dragons models? Oh, crikey. As I bring in the Defiler again, so we'll bring him in to carry on with these rocks. What inspired me was playing D&D. So I'm not sure if you saw the start of the stream, but how I started was about 10 or 12. I played Blood Bowl and Mordheim in the Warhammer Games Workshop games. So this was in the 90s. So I played those, which were really good and fun, and they had models, and I slapped a load of paint on them and enjoyed it. However, didn't touch anything until my late 30s during COVID. And I then thought, oh, this is actually quite cool. I had some models in the house. I painted them. I really enjoyed it. It then helped me on an escapism side. So, I think everybody here, whether it's in this channel or in real life, can attest to the fact that mental health problems are quite prevalent. I went through my own. I'm not ashamed or scared to say that. And painting is like a escape for me, and it helps me with my mental health and clarity. So if I need time away to think, painting is really, really good. You can just get sucked into the moment. And I love that about painting. So I got into painting of minis through playing Dungeons and Dragons. I played Dungeons and Dragons at my local comic store. It's no longer open anymore. Gutted about that. Two of my friends that I made friends with since then, they worked at the comic store. So I don't know if they're listening tonight, but they might be. I won't mention the comic store at all, but as in the name of the store, but it was in my local town at that time. And that was a really cool place, and I met some very cool people there. And those cool people are actually part of my home game, my home D&D game, where I DM for them, which I absolutely love. That's on a Thursday night, so that was only yesterday. Had an absolutely wicked session with them. But I digress. But yeah, hopefully that answers the question on what inspired me to start painting models, was playing the game. Understanding the story, the fantasy setting. I think a lot of people... some people really like, sci-fi, for example. Some people really like, your action movies like Irani. I don't mind all that stuff, but actually, the inspiration for me is the stories. I love that, Tolkien type setting, that real true fantasy setting. So when I play D&D with my groups, I do play in a fantasy setting. Elves, dwarves are the best. I love dwarves. They're awesome. So yeah, that kind of inspired me then. I was like, right, okay. Because I got sucked in. I was like, oh my God, this hobby's so cool. I absolutely love, playing these games and creating these characters. And I wanted to bring a character to life. And I was already painting the Warhammer models. I thought, I might as well just get some D&D models. So I got some. I got some WizKid models to begin with. By the way, they're not very good quality. Don't get them. Sorry, WizKids, but they're really poor in comparison. So I got some of those and I started painting them, and it was just developing my characters, and it made me feel like the character was more alive. So that was why the Cam 152. Adrian, you've dropped a question in. What do you do for base coating? Absolutely awesome question. So I will cover that on another show in more detail, but I've actually got one prepped here to show you. So this is a Games Workshop sprue. They don't come black. So as soon as I get a model, if I have intention to paint it, I will spray it. Well, in fact, even if I don't, I take them out of the box, unwrap it, take it out of the box, spray it black straight away. Why do I spray it black? Okay, here's the cheaty. Second real good painting tip of the day. So when you spray it black and you get it really dark like this, when you're applying colours to the top, they fade a little bit, so they don't look so vibrant. They look dull. Like in real life, if you're looking at something, nothing looks like super vibrant really, apart from the one crazy character with a super loud shirt that you see down the pub. So it dulls the paint down to make it look more realistic, which is great, and it also allows you to do a little cheeky cheat. So let's turn. In fact, let's bring a model up that we can show you. So I'm going to lie this model down, and let's change our camera across. So let's go across to here. All right, let's bring this guy in. So I'm not sure if the camera will zoom. I need a better camera really, but I'm trying to get that just right. So on this guy, you might be able to see, if I use my paintbrush, these tiny little bits in here, right? Because he's undercoated black, when you've got recesses and things like that need to look like they're separated, you only had to dry brush across the top, which is really easy. So then it leaves tiny little lines. If you look around his boots and things like that, you'll see very small little lines. Can you see those? Just as I bring it out of focus. There you go, that's better. Just as you see out of focus there, the tiny little lines to shape bits of his armour. It means that you've already got those definitions in there. So it really helps base coating in black, because it gives you that ability to just lightly go round the edges rather than just having white, which then stands out. Black sits and fits with pretty much 99% of models that you will paint. It makes it a lot better. Hopefully my thingy doesn't pop down because I've just heard some tearing. See this thing that I've got hanging behind me really badly? It's on a bit of string one side of the room to the other, and I've got a blanket hanging across it because it looks cool, but I can just hear it sort of tearing at the moment, which is not so good. Hopefully it stays up and doesn't ping down in a minute. But Adrian, I hope that answers your question. So it is black for base coating. What type of black do I use? Let's grab it for you just to show you. It can be any black you want really, but this is the black I use because it's cheaper than the Games Workshop one. So it's Colour Force Matte Black, and it's a 500ml tin. So it's a bigger tin that you get with Games Workshop. I do have some Games Workshop or Citadel ones, should I say. They're still really good. There's nothing wrong with the quality of that. It was just the price. Those are cheaper than buying a Citadel one. So I thought, well, I get more for my money. I get more volume and I get more, and it's cheaper. More volume and it's cheaper. Simple as that. So black is the way forward. I have experimented with white, and some people really like white, but I just find for those details to make things stand out, it doesn't quite help. And perhaps I'm not advanced enough, but I think in terms of non-pro painters, it gives you the best ability to bring out smaller details when you're undercoating in black, because even on like a nose, for example, which is a really small, apart from my nose, very big, but from they're really small tiny features. Now if you were trying to paint nostrils, that's really hard to paint a nostril, but actually if we're generally speaking in high resolution models or resin models that you get, be that Games Workshop or Etsy, they have depressions, right? So if your model is sprayed black and you get your brush and you go over very lightly around the edge, almost like in a dry brush fashion, you'll miss the crevice, and the crevice will stay black, looking dark and looking like it is a nostril. That's just one example. But things like Space Marines armour, things like that's really cool. And then if you ever do miss a little tiny piece, you can always come back to it with a bit of a sort of what are they called? Contrast. That's what I was going to reach for one then so I could see what it was called. But yeah, contrasting you can then use later. So what else we've got to do on this model? I keep on talking lots and forgetting to paint my model, which is not very good of me. So I must make sure I paint more, because at this rate I'm not painting very much at all. But yeah. So how's everyone in the chat? How's everyone's week going? Anyone had any major crazy dramas and things that's going on in their lives? Anyone undertaking any fitness challenges? Or models? Anyone got any models going at the moment? I have set up a 1.Minis-N-Muscles Discord channel. You'll find the link for that if you go and look at my YouTube page, and then you go down to the options just below the title. You'll find a link to Linktree. On the Linktree link, you will then find the Discord channel. There's also Patreon there as well, so you'll find all of those there. There we go. That's a bit more done on those rocks. It's always a slow process as well, I find, painting, and that's not a problem, but some people can get a little bit angsty that things don't look great straight away. It is a bit of a love-hate process where it needs to go real slow, but that shouldn't be a problem. It's about enjoying the painting process. As I said earlier, painting is a real nice way to escape from the world sometimes. So what's everyone painting? Anything? More questions come through on the chat. Crikey, I've been almost chatting away for an hour. Didn't realise I was going to do an hour. I thought I was just going to do half hour. It's turned into an hour. Fantastic. That means I can rabble on for ages and talk mindless crap. Well, I best probably finish up in a minute. I can't be keeping everyone here for all night, but yeah. So I'm just going to change my camera and show you what this looks like so far, purely because it looks rubbish, right? It doesn't look like anything super special. It doesn't look, you wouldn't think there and go, oh my god, that's really good. But when you build the layers and build the layers and build the layers, that's when you have that final effect and you go, oh wow, that's actually really cool. So I'll just do a couple more little bits here. I've actually put a little bit too much water on my brush there. That's another thing. I find more is less. That's a big sort of motto of mine when it comes to paints and painting as a whole. More is less. Sorry, less is more. What am I talking about? Less is more. Oh, Dorks and Orcs have just joined. Welcome, Dorks and Orcs. No worries at all. No worries that you're late. I'm kind of wrapping up, actually. But yes, we're loving to have you here. I was actually talking about Games Therapy UK. So, Dorks and Orcs, and I hope he doesn't mind me saying, but Dorks and Orcs is the founder of Game Therapy UK. So Game Therapy UK is the therapeutic gaming charity that I was talking about earlier that provides evidence-based therapeutic gaming through TTRPGs like Aliens and Call of Cthulhu, Dungeons and Dragons. Dorks and Orcs is the founder of that charity. I look after the sort of sub thing underneath, which is Tactical Advanced to Game. But yeah, so welcome Dorks and Orcs. Good to have you on. So, what have we got here? Let's just change your camera so you can see what I'm doing a little bit. I forgot to do that. Sorry, guys. So let's bring this. Is that the dungeon you bought at Salute? Oh, the dragon. Yes, that's that's Salute. I completely forgot what it was. Sorry, dude. Yeah, I forgot what it was. But yes, this is the dragon that I bought at Salute. So hopefully you can see him here. I'm just painting his base at the moment. It's not going very well. I'm finding I'm chatting more than I am painting, but hey ho. I think that's absolutely fine. But yeah, these are really good minis. I said earlier, Dungeons and Lasers. They were like, I think this dragon was only about 20 quid. Or 22 quid. Which, as people know, for a large miniature like this is actually really good price. And their scenery was very good price as well. So if you're into painting scenery and things like that, they're super good. So I have a look. They even do pre-painted stuff if you want a little cheaty bit of scenery. If there's any cheater-bixes amongst you. But yeah, here we go. We're still going on this. And it's just a matter of, when you're doing finer details like this base, if I tip it this way, I don't know if you can see, possibly not if my hand's in the way, but there's little bits there that I've done, and it's about small bit by small bit by small bit, just keep on repeating and going through that painting process. So find a little rock on there, that teeny tiny, it's going to take you time. Just place a little bit of paint onto your brush, apply it, get it painted, and just don't worry about it. It's a love thing. It's where you can really sort of just relax and chill into it. I don't know if anyone can hear my music though in the background. Oh, it says looks awesome, but wanted to buy one, but you'd grab the last one. Yeah, sorry, mate. Yeah, I did. I grabbed this one, and I got a ghost dragon as well, who's just as cool. He's sat over there. I haven't painted him yet. That's possibly going to be my next piece. At least you're painting, Stephen, not procrastinating whilst looking at sprues. Oh, well, that's true, yeah. Yeah, that's true. Why have you got all your sprues out, Adrian, and you're just looking at something to paint? Just pick something. And talking of picking something, actually, seeing as I've been going over an hour now, and I did say I was going to do half hour only. What I should probably do is stop my painting here, because I want to ask you guys a question. I want to know, because I was just painting this as a bit of a side piece and just to talk around model painting as a whole whilst we do the first stream, right? This is the first live of Minis-N-Muscles. But what I really wanted to do is ask you guys what I should paint next. I'm going to try and do a poll of some sort, or we can even stick it in the comments once I post this video live. But I wanted to do a poll on what to do next. So I have a couple of things. I say a couple of things. I actually have a few too many things. you'll find with a lot of model painters, you get so excited when you get into it. You buy this one, you buy that one, you think, oh, that'd be great, and you never get round to painting them. So I've got like a box over here that's like full of stuff that I really need to paint. But saying that, I have a couple of things here. Let's move this light out of the way. So I have a couple of things here that I should probably look at painting at some time. So what have we got, Steve? I hear you say. Well, we've got a couple of cool things. Let's just move some of this out of the way so I can actually show you what they look like. So, as I mentioned, when I get a model, the first thing I do, even if I don't intend to paint it straight away, is spray it black. So, I got this model. So, this is a Warhammer Age of Sigmar model. It's a limited edition one. But he's a dwarf. And as people may very well know, I love the dwarf characters. I think they're cool as hell. So what I did was I took the sprues out and I sprayed him black. So I sprayed him black, assembled him. Possibly not always the best thing to do. I got a little excited in putting him together. I just wanted to see what he looked like. However, on models like this, when you put them together, be wary of putting them together fully before you paint them. Reason being, now if I tip this up, I don't know if I can show you on here, but you can just about make out, let's use my paintbrush as a pointer, you can just about make out here the cape. How the heck are you going to paint underneath that cape? If you're not, you know, used to getting into those tiny little places, it's really difficult. But anyway, I sort of go on a wander there. But what I need to do is I've got this guy. So I've got Grombrindal. Grombrindal. That's this guy. He's to paint. I have these Orcs and Gretchen to paint. I was just going to use them in D&D because I think they're really cool figures, and none of them, or some of them have pistols, but pistols exist in D&D, so I thought they were quite cool. So I've got those. Use sub-assemblies, yeah. So just to answer your question, Adrian, I do that. Sometimes I have been known as well to paint on the sprue. So I paint the majority of it on the sprue and then put it all together and then fill in the details. It's a couple of different ways. We'll cover those later. So I've got those two. So I've got these two to paint. And I've also got these two figures to paint. So I've got some little Etsy figures. So if I bring these in, I've got little Etsy... camera's opposite, so there you go. Little Etsy D&D figures. So they're pretty cool. So there's like a roguey type character, which is this one, and then a ranger type character, which is this one over here. So there's 4 there to paint. What I want to know from you guys is which one should I do? Should I paint one of the D&D figures? So that's rogue or ranger. Should I paint the dwarf? Or should I paint the greenskins? So please do, in the chat, write ranger, rogue, dwarf or greenskins, because I'd like you guys to vote and tell me what I should paint next, because much like Adrian's saying there, he's procrastinating. I procrastinate too, and I'm like, oh, what should I paint next? I don't really know. So I need your guidance, Minis-N-Muscles fans. So I need your help. Never thought of painting on the sprue. Good tip. Yeah, it can be really cool actually. The only thing you have to be aware of when painting on the sprue is it's great for getting around all the nooks and crannies, but when you come to cut them out, you then are in danger of cutting some of the paint out, so you might end up with a little bit lost. You have to backfill, which can be a bit awkward. But it's still a very cool thing to do, and it means that you can get to all the little places. But then sometimes, for example, you'll paint over an area that needs to be glued, and you'll be like, shit, I've just painted that, and it's taken me 25 minutes, and now I have to glue that part, and I can't see that paint at all. We're getting some comments coming in. So what we got? So we got Dorks and Orcs, Dwarf. We got Helen J saying Ranger. We got Angel saying Dwarf. Adrian saying Xenos. The Cams saying Ranger. Okay. Oh, so we've got 2 for Ranger, 2 for Dwarf at the moment. Oh, we need one more person. Surely there's one more person watching that can give us a vote. Come on, one more person. Give us a vote. Drop it in that chat. Whilst you're contemplating whether or not you're brave enough to say something in the chat, there's one thing I did want to say actually was as part of me starting this Minis-N-Muscles YouTube channel, Why did I start it? I kind of alluded to that earlier on in the video, but I was actually kind of inspired by a friend of mine who I met through Game Therapy UK. So Mira Manga runs a YouTube channel on Warhammer and lore and things like that. Very, very interesting. So if you're interested in lore, reading books, she also does the gosh, I've forgotten what that blooming called, the Ian Livingstone Dungeons books, the choose your own adventure type thing, but does it online on a Sunday. That's very, very cool. Cam's voting Ranger twice. Cheeky. I like it. But yes, Mira does the some separate shows, and she said, oh, you should do something, and blah blah blah, and she gave me a bit of confidence. I watched the show a couple of times to get a feel for how things are done. I thought, oh yeah, I'll give it a crack. So thank you, Mira. If anyone is interested in Warhammer, in lore and things like that, and reading the books and all the rest of it, she is super into the books. I've got a reading age of about 5, so I probably eat crayons rather than write with crayons. So it takes me forever to read anything, but if you're into those books, worth it. Oh yeah, so Dorks and Orcs saying Mira Manga is awesome. Yeah, she's super cool and very, very knowledgeable on the lore. Like me, she's never played Warhammer, but oh, hang about, we've got Adrian. Adrian's now saying, changing his mind. Okay, so he's saying the dwarf. Oh, okay, so that then does change things a little bit. So that means the dwarf's got 3 votes. So it is going to be Grombrindle, the dwarf, that we will paint next. And what we will do on the next Minis-N-Muscles, we will start from fresh from this sprayed, base-coated mini, and we will paint it all the way through. So we'll do that every session until he's finished and done. It might take a while because I tend to procrastinate and go off to different subjects and talk about lots of different things rather than painting the mini itself. But we will get there, don't you worry. On the Thrall model, I will just tidy a little bit of that up and post some pictures as well in a short, just so you guys can see the effect of doing different shadings and around the stone base, so you can see that. Oh, there we go. Dorks and Orcs is happy that it's the dwarf. But anyway, I'm going to wrap up now because I've been on for 1 hour and 15. And I don't know whether I can bore you guys to death anymore. But it has been an absolute pleasure. For those of you that did tune in to watch the first live ever of Minis-N-Muscles, thank you very much. From the brawn to the brush, I'm going to have to sign off. But thank you all for your support, for your love. Make sure you tell your friends about it. Likes, comments and subscribes help me massively to build the channel, so I really, really appreciate it. Remember the links on the YouTube profile itself. So on the YouTube channel you can find the link tree to go to Patreon, to go to the Twitch channel, to go to all the rest of it, and you will find all other information there. Anytime anyone wants to drop me a note on the DMs, and I will hopefully be able to get back to you. Anyway, for now, peace and love, people. Take it easy. From the brawns to the brains, I'm out. See you later. Stay safe.